All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for coming, participating in today's formal meeting of the Phoenix City Council for Wednesday, January 6, 2016. Appears we have a quorum of the City Council present. We will begin today's meeting with an invocation. The invocation will be given by Reverend Richard Rogers from Unity of Phoenix. If you are able to, please stand for the invocation. Here. All right. Michael Nowakowski here is pretty good at this. All right. You want to lead us? A little pressure. What's that? I think Mr. Reverend Rogers is not here yet, so I'm going to put him on the spot and see if our city manager has a short prayer for us today.
All right. God, thank you for bringing us here into a new year. Thank you for this council and for the decisions we make. Give us wisdom. Be with us all today. We ask in your name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much. The Pledge of Allegiance will be allowed by Councilwoman Kate Gallego.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would the clerk please call the roll?
Councilman DeCiccio. Councilwoman Gallego.
Here.
Councilman Gates.
Here.
Councilman Nowakowski. Councilwoman Pastor.
Here.
Councilman Waring. Here. Councilwoman Williams.
Here.
Vice Mayor Valenzuela.
Here.
Mayor Stanton.
Here. We are fortunate to have an interpreter with us. Ms. Marquez, please introduce yourself for the audience.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es Leticia Márquez. Si alguien necesita asistencia o ayuda para el español, por favor, véame. Gracias.
Thank you very much. We begin our meeting. The first item is citizen comments per the City Council rules. Citizens will have a total of 15 minutes to speak at the beginning of the meeting. If there are additional individuals not able to speak now but wish to speak for citizen comment, that will happen at the last agenda item for the meeting. We'll have up to 3 minutes per speaker, total of 15 minutes at this point. The first speaker will be Mr. Kim Baker. Mr. Baker.
Excuse me. Thank you. I want to say Happy New Year to everyone. This is for you, Mr. Stanton. And I wanted to bring this to your attention just in case you have not seen that there. It is a request to meet with you. It outlines subject matter and so on and so forth. I have talked with your office on 2 occasions, and I'm getting some conflicting information. I know open meeting allows you to have a comment if you so choose, but that I've taken the steps to initiate a meeting with you, I would like to know today, would you be willing to grant this meeting in regards to the subject matter listed in the document? That's a question for you, Mr. Mayor.
I appreciate it. Continue.
Well, I'm asking a question.
I know.
Okay.
Continue if you like. We can talk offline if you'd like. If you want to do do the on-the-spot thing, I'm not going to respond, but please continue. You have up to 3 minutes.
Well, again, I want to meet with you now. I'm tired of dealing with all this that is beneath your office, because now it seems like with you being at the helm, not seems, but with you being at the helm, you are the decision maker. This is starting to deal with policy now. This is starting to deal with policy. And again, the officer that has been named has told me and 2 other witnesses that he knew nothing of this authored letter. Again, it hits below the belt that someone would jeopardize this man's career and then actually encourage me to file a complaint against him. I wouldn't do it as I told him, and I'm not going to do it. But I want to meet with you, Mr. Mayor. That's why I brought a copy of that request. So I'm asking you, would you oblige that request?
Yes, he has up to 3 minutes. I'm going to give you the opportunity if you want to use the 3 minutes on silence or you want to talk, it's up to you.
Well, I'm asking you a question.
Brad, can I have a question? When we're at public comment, we're allowed to take in but not to respond.
That's correct, Mayor, Councilwoman Pastor. The problem is under the open meeting law, we can't have a dialogue with a
Right.
commenter in this
So-
section, so it's not really appropriate for a back and forth between a
okay.
commenter and a member of the council or the mayor.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Baker, that time will not count against you. Continue.
So I guess by your denial to comment, you're saying no? Well, thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for coming down. I appreciate it very much. Mr. Leonard Clark will be the next speaker.
Hello, Mayor and council members. Thank you for letting me speak. I want to thank my fellow veterans and the actual soldiers who are serving right now. Because of them, I am up here right now able to speak. I just wanted to tell you that I have concerns. There was a shooting that occurred, and I'm not going to be put in either box, pro-police, anti-police, whatever. I'm pro-justice, and last week an individual was shot. And I understand, yes, the individual threw a rock at the police car, broke a window, but I really do strongly support any efforts that you could come up with, the police chief, that would handle obviously mentally ill people instead of just the first inclination that we've been taught, because a lot of the fellow officers that I've known, I was a National Guard, have been, they're police officers, and we were trained to just shoot center of mass because that's our enemy. But when a lot of the people that come out and go into law enforcement, they still have that mentality. So I'm hoping we can work to stop these unnecessary deaths, because I believe a mentally ill man, yes, throwing a rock is one thing at your police station. You know, I don't want it to come out that, well, you throw rocks at the police station, you're going to get shot. I understand people just accept that, but really, in most parts of the world, except in like China or Russia, I don't think we handle things that way, and I do compliment the officers who put their lives on the line. I would put my life on the line for them. I'd also put my life on the line for my brothers and sisters who stand up against unnecessary killings. Also, I wanted to share my concern with the fact that we hold these meetings so early. I understand that the people who come here, it's more convenient. It's even more convenient for me because you know I'm an activist. So besides my part-time work, it's easier for me to come here during the day than the evening. But most citizens, like when I was in Glendale or in Tempe, their council meetings are held in the evenings. Your parking meters, you guys made it so that people have to pay after 5. And your voucher, where you say I can be citizens or myself, if I come down and sign in, I have to pay an exorbitant amount of money, which to you, $5 or $10 might not be a lot. But for a hardworking citizen to come down here, have to worry about parking meters, getting a $50 ticket or whatever, even after, you give them this validation, is not working. So I ask that you people who sign in, citizens who come to speak, to do their civic duty, not just pay their water bill, but to come in and speak, not to chill the First Amendment by scaring people, by intimidating them. I don't want to go to downtown. First of all, it's traffic. It's in the middle of the day. I got to go home and feed my family. I'm not going to have time to make it back. Then I don't know if they're going to give me a ticket. Then I don't know if I have the $5 or $10 to pay for parking. I understand where you're coming from, where the business owners don't want people parked too long in the downtown area, staying all day. But it should not penalize citizens who wish to use their First Amendment rights. I mean, I know you can smile if you want and patronize me and say, okay, that's fine, Leonard, but nothing gets done, and then a little bit of democracy dies more every meeting that we have because citizens don't want to come down here. So I ask that you address that. And again, please I hope you'll hear what I've said. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Clark. Ms. Diane Barker.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. Diane Barker. I'm in District 7, and I'm looking forward to new eyes here on 2016. And in response to our friend Leonard Clark, I will choose an idea that we need to consider, and in all fairness, it's called multimodal transportation. So if we were to bend over to Mr. Clark and to pay for his parking, well, I don't need parking because I am walking, I'm bicycling, and I'm using transit, and I'm paying a fare also, which helps out with the city. But the city doesn't personally reimburse me the benefits that I get are from Almighty because, you know, I have my health, and I was able to do that cartwheel and split when I saw the Ohio State cheerleaders out at Fiesta Bowl. And this year we'll be able to see some good tax receipts from that. Now, what I mentioned today at the Board of Supervisors was we have vehicles and we have infrastructure. Now we just need to make it fit. Why didn't we have shuttles off of the 60 bus and the 50 into the stadium? It did benefit me and my friend. We took bicycles, and so at 83rd we rode in the stadium past all the traffic, and there was a bicycle rack right by the gate, so we were some of the first in. And on the way out, when people were polluting in traffic and waiting, we rode right past them. So now, you know, the city is over 50 people, as our employers that need to be into the plan to cut down on emissions and congestion and pollution. Let's not call it trip reduction. Let's call it the freedom of the best choice. And I say that we still have not been able to advertise what we already have. We have some really good things in our transit. A long time in the bus system. The express bus beats all the cars, folks, and you don't have to worry about parking. Okay, now, and it's affordable if you're in government. Normally, government pays for most of it. So this year in 2016, I'm asking us to open up our eyes for best choices, and we have a responsibility to give to that. Don't do it to the kids. Don't even try to pretend you're doing it for the kids when you're not. You personally need to participate in multimodal transportation. Be the leaders of which you are saying that we're supposed to do multimodal, and do it yourself. Have a great 2016.
Thank you very much, Ms. Barker. How about Daniel Mortzel? Is that the correct pronunciation? Hartzell. I apologize. Please come forward. You have 3 minutes.
Starting now. I had a proposal for the Board of Transportation. We had a problem, and there's been like 3 events already on ongoing traffic the wrong way. I'm an engineer from the Navy, processor smart bomb, 14 inventions and suggested, submitted to Garrett Aviation. You can find their main branch compound in the Los Angeles International Airport. My idea simply was the first problem they had with people getting on the wrong way is in order to detect they're going the wrong way, you have first sensors, motion sensors. You also have electron or weight sensors in the bottom. Both of those go off. That indicates a vehicle is going in the wrong way. At this time, in the middle of the road, you have a solid steel plate, aluminum plate, say 2.5 feet. That automatically flips up. Air-U-matic. I was going hydraulic, but air's cheaper. And once you got that, there you got your barrier. You can always build brick walls from there, aside from the road. I went to the Transportation Board, and at that particular day, they're hiring in new people. And I'm trying to talk to somebody above there to take and give a simple blueprint and my ideal to them. At that point down there, they didn't want nothing to do with me, to the extent I had to take this blueprint, get a copy for me, get it up to somebody else, we can take it from there. And at this point, nothing happened. I actually was working at one time with the Pastor Sarah at St. Grace, and we sent an email to them, and their response from me is to take and fill out paperwork. Here, I'm not trying to get one penny for this. I'm trying to save the lives of the people and I'm not getting rejected. So I suggest this time, I know you can't relate to me, but I'm going to go down to Detroit, or the Transportation Department, 9 o'clock Friday morning, and hope we get a meeting there, and then we'll have a response or a follow-up with you. On the secondary, I notice we have an attorney here. And the attorney, I would like to ask on behalf of the city that we talk to the dean of the University, State University, to have a team glorified to be the devil. And here's the lawsuit: defamation of character. There is only one devil, and that's it. We'll sue them, give the money to charity. But we need to propose the ideals to the dean and the university. We don't want to moralize our children saying, Daddy, when I grow up, I want to be a doctor. That's the worst thing in the world. So on behalf of the city, could we please have some follow-up there? One other thing, I'm working with the adolescents because I was raised with the drum and bugle corps sponsored by the Veterans of Foreign War. And I'm still working with that in the Board of Education because like the Bible says, it's going to take a village to put it together. So
Thank you.
have a good day.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hartzell. Next one is James Dibler. Mr. Dibler, are you here? All right, please come forward. You have the 3 minutes to provide any testimony you'd like before the city council.
Hello, I am James Dibler. I am going to school at Arizona State University West. I live in Phoenix, Council Member Donald Vangerelia, District 5. I am glad the City of Phoenix is doing a good job in lowering the crime rate in Maryville. The neighborhood near Grand Canyon University and Metro Center Mall. Grand Canyon University Tutors is doing a good job to help Alhambra High School students to graduate and move on to college or the workforce. The street transportation department needs to install LED street lighting between 37th Avenue and Glendale to 37th Avenue and Bethany Home Road to replace the aging street lights that were installed in the 1960s. Finally, I support the West Valley Resort and Casino because it will bring new jobs to Glendale and Peoria. I know the city of Townsend, Glendale, and Peoria already support the new casino and resort because it will bring prosperity to the region. It's time for the city of Phoenix to put support for the casino because the state of Arizona is trying to shut down the place. A lot of casino workers may lose their job. Thanks for no time.
Thank you, Mr. Dibler.
Thank you.
Okay. I believe that is the last card. Okay, so now we'll go on to the approval of the December 9th minutes.
I would move approval.
I'm sorry, one moment. City Clerk, 24-hour paragraph.
The titles of the following ordinance and resolution numbers on the agenda were available to the public at least 24 hours prior to this council meeting and therefore may be read by title or agenda item only. Ordinances number G6105 through 6107, S42232 through 42259, and resolutions number 21395 through 21397.
Thank you, Mr. City Clerk. Councilman Williams, I'll take that motion now. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. We have a motion for boards and commissions.
Motion to approve mayor's boards and commissions nominations. Motion to approve city council boards and commissions nominations.
Second.
Great, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. And I know we have some just to swear in, so I'll do that now. Yeah, sure. Okay, please raise your right hand I, and state your name.
I, Dan Sullivan,
Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution and the laws of the state of Arizona,
and the Constitution and laws of the state of Arizona,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same,
and defend them against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
to defend them against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of the office of
and that I will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of the office of Encanto Village Planning Commission
Great. According to the best of my ability,
according to the best of my ability,
so help me God.
so help me God.
All right. Congratulations.
Thank you.
We're going to pause for another moment so that Councilwoman Pastor can get a photo. These are new members of the Encanto Village Planning Committee. Okay, great. Okay, great. Do we have a motion for liquor licenses application?
I make the motion to approve items 1 through 15, except items 7 and 15, noting 15 is being requested by the applicant to be continued to January 20, 2016.
We have a
Second.
motion, we have a second. I want to note that we do have several cards for all in favor, not wishing to speak, and these are for items 1, 5, 14, 6, 9, 11, 13, 15, and 10. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Great. Okay. Item 7. Yeah. Item 7 is our next item. It is in District 4, Councilwoman Pastor. Would you like how do you wish to proceed?
I would like an analysis.
Okay.
Mayor, members of the council, my name is Denise Archibald with the City Clerk Department. This request is for a new license for a convenience store that does not sell gas operating as Quick Corner. This location was previously licensed for liquor sales as Circle K store number 3756 and is currently operating with an interim permit. 7 letters protesting the issuance of this license have been received and are on file in the office of the City Clerk. The letters are from local residents and businesses who are concerned with the location. Consideration should be given only to the applicant's personal qualifications. In regards to the location, pursuant to state law, there is a presumption that the public convenience and best interest of the community were already established at the time the location was previously licensed. Staff gave careful consideration of this liquor license application and the protest letters received. However, after evaluating the application in its entirety, staff is recommending approval of this license.
So my understanding is the staff did their due diligence in regarding the past business that was in there. And there's always been some trouble on that, in that area, and not that business, but the area in general. And my understanding is that the applicant is qualified to receive has been approved for, to continue to the state for a liquor license. Okay. Do we have any items?
Cards.
Cards?
We do have cards. Would you like to proceed with cards, Councilwoman?
Yeah.
Okay. First card is Ray Anderson, speaking in favor.
Yeah, I live in the area and been working in the area as well. And the other stores that are available there are convenient. There's a shopping center, tire stores, and other stuff. And it's like they said before, it was another Circle K before, and so it's it's not like a new business coming in, but a business is taking over a property that's been improved and updated electrically and appearance and everything else. And so it's like a logical thing to just keep on having the same store in there and providing jobs for the area as well.
Thank you, sir. Next, I just have Quick Corner app. I'm assuming that's the applicant.
Would you like to speak? Okay.
Please state your name, sir.
My name is Munish Gupta. We own other stores in the Phoenix and Glendale area, and we, promise to keep a good neighbor environment and clean environment for that corner. And we've not had issues, in the past with the neighborhoods, and we also are not like a big corporation. We're a family, so. To the Protestants also, that's it. Thank you.
Any questions for the applicant?
Vice Mayor?
Councilman Gates?
Yeah. I did have a question for you. Do you intend on operating a smoke shop out of this location?
No.
Thank you.
We will have cigarettes, but we're not going to be a smoke shop.
No drug paraphernalia?
No.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Next speaker, speaking in opposition, Zain Rahman. I believe I'm pronouncing that correctly. There are two cards after Mr. Rahman who oppose, not wishing to speak, Samuel Pauls and Dinka Oraha.
Hello, everybody. I'm a tenant and a landlord in the area. Until today, I did not know Mr. Gupta is coming over there. He's a good friend of mine. I don't know what to say at this point, but the conditions of that area stays the same. Either it's my friend comes, my relative comes, whoever. We have over 12 beer and liquor licenses in that area between Indian School and the Camelback on 27th Avenue. The Circle K, which left because for some reason it had a poor quality of working, I guess, over there, a lot of robberies and beer runs. But that doesn't mean it's not going to happen when our friend Gupta takes it over. The area is fragile, a lot of crime, and anybody leaves from there with a liquor license, I think gracias a Dios. But to add one more, or just even to replace the one who had it before, it's not good for the area. I mean, there is no need. First of all, these licenses are dependent upon the need of the area to service the area there. more than 12 in one less than a mile, I think more than enough to serve the community's need over there. But the rest, you can have 100 of them there. Really, we don't care then. But that's what my understanding is. It's more than enough we have over there right now. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I have a question.
Councilman Nowakowski?
Do you happen to have a liquor license in that area right now?
Yeah, I do. Yes, sir.
Is there one or more?
I have 2.
Okay.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you.
Mhm.
That's the last of the cards. I'll turn it back over to Councilwoman Pastor.
Due to the fact that I have received over 9 or 8 disapproval of the liquor license. And it is really talking about the area, really talking about what has gone on in the area, the dynamics. That was one of the reasons why I pulled it, to have a discussion about this. And I have a great concern of that area because it's one of my areas that I watch over. Well, I watch over all areas, but one that you really have to watch over. And due to the fact of the 8 disapprovals, I am, to those that disapprove of this going into that area, my recommendation is that you have 15 days from today to send your disapproval letters to the state board. And in 15 days, there will be a hearing at approximately when?
Mayor, members of the council, Councilwoman Pastor, it depends on the council's recommendation today as to whether there would be a hearing or not, regardless of the protest. But they definitely can submit them to the state within the next 15 days.
Within the next 15 days. So my recommendation is that we approve the liquor license, that I will work very closely with the business owner to improve that area and work with those that disapprove it and work with those neighborhoods to get it to where we need to get those areas. So that is my recommendation, or motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any other comments? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vice Mayor. So we're now on to ordinance, resolutions, and new business. City Clerk, are we ready for those items? Vice Mayor, we're ready? Do we have a motion?
They're ready. Yes, Mayor. Motion to approve items 16 through 49, except the following items. 16L, 16Q, 16S, 19, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 48, and 49, and excluding these items for public comment, 30, 31, 41, 44, 46, and 48.
Thank you very much, Vice.
First.
We have a motion. Do we have a motion?
Motion.
We do have a motion. We have a second. I apologize. Let's see. This is roll
Mayor-
call, correct?
Mayor.
Councilman Nowakowski, please.
Was 19 held out for comment?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments or questions about the omnibus? Roll call.
DeCiccio. Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes. Next item on the agenda is item 16L. We have a motion on 16L.
Motion to approve item 16L.
Do we have a second? We have a motion. We have a second. Any comments on item 16L?
One just quick question for Chris.
Councilman.
All right, Chris, this is, I've taken issue with the city running its elections and how much it costs, but this, we would have to pay for this regardless.
Mayor, Councilman Waring, yes, that is correct. This contract is for printing and mailing of the publicity pamphlet, which individual jurisdictions are required to do on their own.
So if we want to have a democracy, we want to keep having elections, we need to do this, regardless of how it's structured.
That would be required. We're
Fair
required
enough.
to do
Thank
this.
you. I appreciate it.
Any other questions by members of this council? Roll call.
DeCiccio. Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Noakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Waring.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes. Next item is 16Q.
Motion to approve item 16Q.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second, or any questions or comments on 16Q? Roll call.
DeCiccio.
You know what?
Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Noakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, the item passes 8-1. Next item is 16S. This is to Everbright West for maintenance of high-rise ballpark light poles. Vice Mayor, do we have a motion?
Motion to approve item 16S.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any comments or questions? Roll call.
DeCiccio. Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Noakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, item passes 8-1. Next item is item number 19. Is there a motion on item number 19?
Mayor, I'd like to have some comments and then make a motion.
Please, go ahead.
Basically, I just want to compliment the staff for working out the extension of the term, and the city's going to be getting $1 per ton, and in the past, we weren't receiving anything, so thank you so much for your hard work and your efforts. The only concern I have is what's the plans after Cemex is done with the property, and what I like to do is maybe continue this, because I like to talk about other things too, what we can do with the funding. So I like to make a motion to continue this until our next meeting, so I can sit down with the park staff and discuss what the future plans for this property after Cemex is done mining this property.
Second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any additional comments? Roll call. I'm sorry. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Next item is item number 30. Do we have a motion on item number 30?
Motion to approve item 30.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on item number 30. Mr. Clark. Leonard Clark, you had comments on item number 30. Please come forward, up to 2 minutes of comments. This is a letter of agreement with the United States FDA, Office of Criminal Investigations for Police Services. Mr. Clark.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. My name is Leonard Clark. I live here in Phoenix. And no, I'm all for the FDA, Food and Drug Administration, government entity, inspecting, if the drug corporations or whatever are putting in the right amounts of what they say, amounts of, and drugs that they're doing to be safe. I was just a little concerned. That's why I put neutral. I didn't say I oppose it, but I'm just concerned because I do know right now the controversy with the medical marijuana clinics and things like that with our present county attorney, and I know I'm putting a big target on my back by saying this, but with the zealots out there, they're going after people who are just trying to resolve pains from cancer and all these other types of things. This could be used with the federal government, because there's those in the federal government right now that want to go after people that use medical marijuana. So I'm just worried that they're going to use this as an excuse to go nitpick and go after the medical marijuana clinics, and I hope that's not what this money will be used for. With FDA, technically, you could argue that it might be used against that, and if not, I'm glad you'll explain at some other point, if not now to the public, that this money that is going to be used from the feds with our police department is not going to be used to harass and go after people who use medical marijuana at the clinics. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have a motion, we have a second. Roll call.
DeCiccio. Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Noakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, item 31.
Motion to approve item 31.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Mr. Clark, this is authorization. Am I off? Did I lose it? My back, okay.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. My name is Leonard Clark. I live here in the city of Phoenix. I just wanted to congratulate you. I hope you'll pass this. Thank you for helping President Obama. You're going to use this funding, as it says, to go after those with weapons violations, get those people who've got those automatic weapons out there, all of those people, because you know what? We're not out to get your guns, but this money will be used. Thank you. I know you'll all vote unanimously. You're helping President Obama. Thank you for my fellow conservatives on here. It does say within the writing that you're going to go after the people who have weapons violations, and God forbid that we should try to get somebody that is mentally ill, that is threatened to kill people, taking away their automatic and semi-automatic weapons, because we know the Second Amendment trumps, children being killed at a school. So thank you. I'm strongly for this, and I thank you to the conservatives on the council for helping President Obama. That's what this money's for. It says it right here. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Clark. We have a motion. We have a second. Any comments by members of this council? Roll call.
DeCiccio. Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski. Pastor.
Yes.
Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, the item passes unanimously. Next item on the agenda is item 41, I believe. And there are a few cards on item number 41. According to the information I have in front of me, we're going to start out with a staff report. Can we give a single staff report on 41 through 44? Would that be okay?
Mayor, yes, we can do that.
Do we have to hold separate public hearings, or is a series of public hearings? Do you know, Brad? Mr. Holm?
We have to hold two separate hearings, Mayor, under the statute.
So staff report can be for all items, but then separate public hearings and obviously individualized.
That's right, and there are
votes on. Okay, I see the item. We have a hearing, and then the subsequent item is the vote.
Yes, and those can be considered together, the water and the wastewater components.
Okay, so item 41 is a public hearing on proposed wastewater infrastructure investment. We'll start out with a staff report. Mr. City Manager, would you just begin?
Thank you, Mayor. Staff is today pleased to present our unqualified recommendation for the water and wastewater rate adjustments presented in the agenda, and which will be explained by our Water Director and Chief Financial Officer. The City of Phoenix is one of the largest municipal water utilities in the United States, and we have a long history of stability based on sound investments in water and wastewater infrastructure. We have the highest credit rating, AAA, and that allows us to borrow at the lowest possible rates to benefit our customers. That didn't happen by accident. It's the result of decades of investment by the City Council. The City Council has not been presented with an overall rate increase for 4 years. And prior to 2012, rates were routinely increased every year to meet the needs. But today, after spending down fund balances for 4 years, we need to raise water and wastewater rates in order to maintain these systems that businesses and residents rely on every day, and also to preserve our AAA credit. The program we propose today is minimal. To the average household, the rate increase this year is less than 6 cents per day, but it will provide maximum benefit to the residents of Phoenix and assure businesses that rely on our infrastructure that Phoenix is a place to invest. The Infrastructure Investment Program has been vetted with a Citizens Committee and exposed to numerous public hearings and open forums. And as I said, we bring this recommendation without hesitation to ensure continued reliable operations of our water and wastewater utilities. So to make the presentation today, we have Deputy City Manager Karen Peters, we have Water Services Director Catherine Sorensen, our Chief Financial Officer, Denise Olson, and Assistant Water Director, Troy Hayes. I'll turn it over to Catherine.
Good afternoon, Mayor, City Council. It was around 2.5 years ago that you guys entrusted me with the honor and the responsibility of leading Phoenix Water. And it's one of the largest utilities in the nation. I'll be forever grateful for you guys entrusting me with that huge responsibility. And for 2 years, I was grateful that our financials were in such a condition that I did not need to come before you to ask for a rate increase, because I understand that it is a difficult thing to ask. But along with the honor of running this utility comes the responsibility of ensuring reliable operations and infrastructure. We have to make sure that we have the water that our homes and businesses rely on for their lives and for their livelihood. It is a responsibility that I feel very keenly every day of my life, and it is a responsibility that I am proud to say our 1,400 employees uphold every day, rain or shine, blazing heat, freezing temperatures. with a measure of integrity and professionalism that humbles me. But apparently the honeymoon is over, and I'm here because it is my responsibility to ask you to increase our water and sewer rates. It is my responsibility to do this because we cannot continue to operate at a loss, and because we must ensure that our customers, our citizens, our businesses, our homes have safe, reliable deliveries of water and enjoy the safe removal of wastewater as well. We have worked with the Efficiency Task Force to ensure that we operate efficiently. We will continue to find efficiencies in our operations. I'm pretty good at that. But fundamentally, this rate increase is not about operations. It's about infrastructure and our willingness as a community to invest in that infrastructure. I will take you through a short presentation. We've been through it before, so we will try to be brief. But please stop me if you have any questions. So, obviously, council is the trustee of our community water system, and our duty is to maintain those reliable deliveries of water to our customers. We've been through our infrastructure needs. We're planning on spending around $1.3 billion over the next 5 years. The majority of this is in pipelines. You will notice that I did not include pictures of exploding pipelines and water shooting up into the air. Frankly, I didn't feel a need to do so because you guys all feel free to text me day and night whenever you see a water leak. So I figured you already got the idea. We need a rate increase to maintain our infrastructure. It's really as simple as that. The costs of labor, electricity, chemicals, everything, it's all increasing. That adds to the need as well. Our rate increases are necessary to maintain our AAA rating and to meet the needs of anticipated bond sales. With a proposed rate increase, we're hoping to support close to 21,000 jobs through our investment in our capital infrastructure over the next 5 years. We do meet 82% of our capital improvement programs actually do meet the small business enterprise goals. We also want to send a positive signal to global markets that this is a safe place to invest because we have a reliable water supply.
Yeah, so Mayor, members of the council, if our rates remain at current levels, we are going to have to cut the water system by $200 million. We will also have to cut the infrastructure or the capital improvement program for the wastewater system for about $250 million. This is almost half of the total needs. We would also fall below our financial targets and our commitment to our bondholders. And this is looking over the next 5 years. You've seen this chart before, and as you've heard earlier, we have not had a rate increase in the last 4 years. We have drawn down our fund balances, and we are now at a point where we need to have very minimal rate increases going forward. You can see we're still very comparable to our other cities in terms of our average total bill for our single-family residents. And we are also still very low in comparison to other top cities. And with that, I'll give it back over to Catherine.
So through the months of November and December, we tried to be everywhere. If you didn't catch us, it's because you weren't at one of these meetings or you didn't read the paper. But we managed to hold 4 open houses. We attended a multitude of community meetings. We're very grateful for the time that those neighborhood committees gave up to hear us. There was a lot of media coverage, particularly in the press as well. And with that, we're happy to take any questions that you might have.
Thank you very much, Mr. City Manager and Karen Peters and Ms. Sorensen and the team. Let's see, I have a few cards on that item. We're still, let's see, we just had staff report. Can we take questions? We do public hearing next, and then any questions or comments. Okay, so now on item 41, I will officially open the public hearing. We'll have an opportunity to ask our professional staff questions in just a moment. I'll turn now to the cards and hear testimony from members of the public on the proposal that you just heard. Our first speaker is our friend and former council member, the one who has spent more time in water meetings than any other council member I know, although Felda is catching up. Councilman Claude Mattes, good to see you.
Good to see you too, Mayor and Council. Thank you very much. First of all, congratulations, Mr. Gates, Ms. Williams, Vice Mayor, and Mr. Nowakowski on your inauguration. I always enjoy inaugurations. I enjoyed them when I was part of them, but I enjoy listening to what council members have to say because it's a new year, there's a new optimism, there's a new confidence. And this was not any different. So thank you very much for your great words. One of the things that I wanted to point out is that the confidence in our future has to do with how we invest our money now. And I have made numerous comments. I have testified on this several times, so I'm not going to go over the details. But as having chaired the Water Wastewater Rate Advisory Committee, this was a public process. We're very proud of the process, and we're very supportive of the recommendation that has been made. A couple of things. One, we're here today because of the money that was invested in the past. We were fortunate in that while we had money that was excess money, let's put it that way, that could be used over the last 4 years, that money has been drawn down to the point to where if we want to continue to move forward, and that was the message I consistently heard from those who gave their inauguration speeches, is we want to continue to move forward. In order to move forward, we need to take care of our infrastructure. Greta Rogers put it best. She said, do you buy a house and then just let it fall apart? No, you don't. You maintain it, you invest in it, you improve it. That's what we're talking about here, is maintaining the existing, taking care of what we know we have as problems in an aging infrastructure, and then improving so that we can meet the needs of our economic growth, make sure that the public has safe drinking water, and to make sure that public safety can meet the needs when the time is there. Thank you very much. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Councilman Maddox. Are there any questions? Vice Mayor, you got a question for Councilman Maddox?
Maybe this is not the time and place, but why didn't you congratulate Mayor Stanton on his inauguration?
I ran out of time. The buzzer hit me before
He only
I
had
could
2
do
minutes.
that.
He had a,
You know, thanks for bringing that up, Vice Mayor.
Councilman Maddox is a personal friend and a predecessor and big shoes
By the
to
way,
fill,
thank you.
especially
I was
as
just
the
hand-delivered
guy.
your invitation to the inauguration.
Oh, yeah.
Just
there you
now.
go. Yeah. Thank you so much for your leadership on this particular issue for so many years and for your friendship and just always being a resource.
Thank you. And Mayor, congratulations. Sorry.
Thank you so much. All right, thank you, Councilman Maddox. Greta Rogers, did you provide testimony on this item? Who's better?
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council, and members in attendance. My name is Greta Rogers. I second everything Claude said. You maintain, you save money. You be irresponsible and not maintain, it'll cost you 3 to 4 times more to put it in working order. We have the best, most qualified, by experience, by training, by education, water director in the whole damn state. Listen and take what she has advised to heart. She isn't here to multiply her own investment. She's taking care of our investment for the public health and safety of this entire community. And we don't have a choice about that. Any of you who vote no on this, shame on you. Today and every day that you serve. This is a must-do, it's a must-pass, it's an investment for the public safety and health of our entire community and continued safe delivery of water services to everyone. We need two things to live: air and water. Do that which is your responsibility and is correct. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Rogers. Louis Schmidt, did you provide testimony on this item? Followed by Richard Ray, followed by Jim Pembroke.
Good afternoon, members, Mayor, members of the City Council. How am I supposed to top that now? Anyways, my name is Louis Schmidt, President, AFSCME Local 2384. I agree with what with the report that was just given to you guys with the former councilman and with Ms. Greta Rogers. If you don't maintain your infrastructure, we are going to be in a crisis. Our employees, the ones that work in the water department, are there when you guys call Catherine because of leaks in your neighborhoods, in your, whatever neighborhood you live in, your neighbors, your constituents complain, they call Catherine and she makes the call down the line, and our employees go out there and they provide that service. If you walk through City Hall on the 9th floor, you'll see some of the older barrels when the city first started, those wooden barrels. Those wooden barrels, that was probably ancient technology way back then. But that was technology that got us to here, where we are today. What took that? It took the city council and it took leaders in some of these departments to make sure that the infrastructure that we had for the citizens was being maintained and that we were progressing in our technology. And it has done that. But in District 6 in Arcadia, that's a very old district, Councilman DeCiccio, very old district. And we know that infrastructure needs a lot of repair. Your constituents don't want to see leaks because when we have leaks, it's wasting water. But people throughout the entire valley rely on the clean water that Phoenix provides. But that comes of, in order to provide that, you have to maintain your systems. And so we have a crucial decision that needs to be made today is, do we want to keep investing in Phoenix? And because when you invest in Phoenix, you're investing into the entire Maricopa County because the city provides drinking water for many other municipalities. So we know there's, some of you are thinking about other elected offices, whether it's the Board of Supervisors or maybe a Corporation Commission, but that should be, that should matter. What matters today is you need to invest in Phoenix, and you need to invest in our infrastructure, which is very important. So what we ask is that you listen to the advice. The members on the council, you guys are not the experts in this. You hire a city manager, and you want him to lead the city, and you want him to hire experts. They've given you recommendations. The subcommittee's given you recommendations, and now we need to move Phoenix forward and approve this item. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much, Louis Schmidt.
I have a question for Louis.
All right, Councilman Nowakowski has a question for Louis. I just want to make it clear that I don't consider moving from the city council to the county board an upgrade in every regard. So I don't consider it as advancing in politics. And we're at the city. We're at the pinnacle. Councilman Nowakowski.
A second.
Louis, I was just going to ask is, in this raise, is there any benefit for the employees? Because I know that for the last 4 to 5 years, they've been taking cuts. Is there any?
Well, that's 6 years to be exact. But I think the benefit of this is that when we repair our infrastructure, when we repair our infrastructure and we invest in our infrastructure, then that in turn makes the employee's job a lot easier. And we're not, and it'll reduce employees' injuries because you're updating your infrastructure. And your private developers will get some of the infrastructure money because the city doesn't do all this. A lot of the work has to be outsourced, and so our developer buddies will get their piece of the pie. But at the end of the day, Councilman Nowakowski, this will, by investing in our infrastructure, it's not about what the employees are going to get, but it'll help. Our goal is to help reduce the injuries that we are having in the water department.
Because what I was told is about 21,000 jobs, right? Outside of the city of Phoenix, right? Or is that including city employees?
Mayor, Councilmember, no, I apologize. That's just an estimate based on a research that was done in 2014 by the Water Environment Research Foundation, and it was a study based on a bunch of utilities across the nation to determine the economic impact of $1 million invested in water and sewer infrastructure. The estimate is that it translates into about 16 jobs per $1 million invested.
So these are estimates, right?
City employees?
Those are private sector jobs. That does not include the 1,400 Water Services Department employees.
Yeah, Mayor, Councilmember Nowakowski, that's correct. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
And the final thing is, in the past, Councilman DeCiccio, you voted for these rate increases in your previous terms because you saw that it was an investment worth fighting for, and we ask that you do that again today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Schmidt. Richard Ray, do you wish to provide testimony, followed by Jim Pembroke, followed by Kathleen Ferris. Good to see you.
This is not just today, and it's not just for this 1 year. This process has been going on for the last 5.5 years as we've looked at the Water Services Department, the operational expertise, the financial side, and what needed to be done to either repair and or improve those water and sewer systems that are in place. 5.5 years worth of lots and lots of time, thousands of hours have been spent collectively looking at this and making sure that there wasn't something going on that could be cut in some way, some savings could be made. Those that can be made have been. The personnel have been improved. Everybody, we changed through several different water directors. We've gotten people now professionally ready to go, and now what they're doing is they're presenting to you something which is called oftentimes an investment, but this is not an investment. This is a recognition that for a large number of years here, nearly 100 in some places, like along McDowell Road, where these things are old and are going to need to be fixed. And maybe not tomorrow, but if we don't start paying, we don't start preparing for it, if we don't do it now, later on, as trustees, people are going to look back and say, why is it that nobody took care of it when it was less expensive to do than waiting until later when the pipes break or there's a giant problem? We need your support. I recognize for all the things that people really don't want to vote on increases. I understand that, and I can appreciate it. But it unfortunately is something which if we don't do it now, we will do it later. And when we do it later, the cost is estimated to be 4 to 6 times greater than if we do it in a consistent and meaningful way. So please, we ask you, and not begging exactly, we'll send Claude up to do that, but the whole thing is we really would like to see a vote that's positive. And if you don't want to vote for it, I'd really like to hear why you don't want to and what your specific reason is. I would ask, and Claude will ask again, but please vote for it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ray. Jim Pembroke, did you provide testimony, followed by Kathleen Ferris, followed by James Dibler.
Mayor and Council, my name is Jim Pembroke, and I'm a registered professional engineer practicing in the water and wastewater industry for about 28 years here in Arizona. And I'm here to support this rate increase. I also served on the Water Rate Advisory Committee, so I'm pretty close to the subject. And I want to leave you with a few points here. First-class cities have first-class infrastructure, and we cannot maintain a first-class city unless we invest in our infrastructure as we do in other items within our city. If we don't do it in the city, nobody else is. Certainly the federal government's not going to help us out in supporting our local community here, whether that's investment or what have you. So first-class cities have first-class infrastructure. I would also suggest and urge you to listen to the experts. I think most of you know that the ASCE, or American Society of Civil Engineers, conducts an infrastructure report card every single year on a national level. They look at different types of infrastructure. Well, this year the state chapter of ASCE did that, and they looked at the variety of infrastructure, and as it turns out, it matched up pretty well with the national report card. But more importantly, some of the lowest grades were scored in the water and wastewater categories, and in particular in the pipeline category. So, and it was at a C and a C minus. I want to also leave you with the fact that the Water Services Department has done what they were asked to do in 2011. When council was faced with a 7% rate increase at that time in 2011, they approved a 4.3% increase with the contingency that the Water Services Department make some changes in efficiency improvements. They did that, and it was reflected in the fact that we haven't had a rate increase for 4 years. So they are operating very efficiently. So in closing, what I would like to say is don't kick the can down the road. It is a bad habit. We've talked about this being a bad habit before of getting into this 0% rate increase. And doing so sacrifices service levels, increases the chance of catastrophic failure, and puts our bond rating at risk. So in closing, I ask for your support in this rate increase in keeping Phoenix a first-class city. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pembroke. Kathleen Ferris is next. Good to see you.
Thank you. Mayor Stanton, members of the council, I'm Kathy Ferris. I'm Executive Director of the Arizona Municipal Water Users Association, and I want to acknowledge Councilwoman Thelda Williams, who is our newly elected president of our association, and we're really happy about that. I'm here today in favor and in support of this increase. I don't know a lot about rates, but I do know a little bit about water, having devoted my entire career to sound water management and to sustainable water supplies. And I know that this council really cares about these issues. I've watched you the last several years take progressive actions on water matters, and many of those supported by your staff, but also your own initiatives. So I know that sustainability is important to you and that reliability of your supplies is important to you. And this is another chance for this council to demonstrate that commitment to reliable water supplies, to sustainable water supplies. I am told that Phoenix detects and fixes about 5,000 small leaks in its system each year. And slow leaks in the pipes can waste precious water supplies. In fact, one other reason to do this is because you care about conservation. You care about showing that you want to conserve water and make sure it is used properly. I've had the privilege the last 2 years of sitting on, serving as a chair of the Moving Forward Colorado River Water Supply and Demand Study Moving Forward process, and I've chaired a work group on water conservation and wastewater reuse. And I will tell you that one of the recommendations of that work group is that we need to implement funding measures to accelerate asset management programs and replace aging infrastructures. So one of the things that you can do by a yes vote is also demonstrate to your fellow cities in the Colorado River Basin your commitment to managing our Colorado River supplies soundly and to sustainable water supply practices. So thank you for the opportunity to speak, and I'd answer any questions if you have them. Thanks.
Thanks very much, Ms. Ferris. We appreciate it very much. James Deibler, did you provide testimony? Thank you.
Hello, I am James Deibler. I live in Phoenix, council member, Donald Fancheria, District 5. The city of Phoenix is doing a good job on providing clean water to their residents and make repairs on their pipes and shooters. If the city council don't act now, the residents of Phoenix will be upset about the broken water pipes and dirty water supply. Please vote for this item to keep Phoenix water supply clean. Thanks for no time.
Thanks, Mr. Deibler, very much. All right, that's all the cards we have for this item on the public hearing portion of the series of items. I will now close the public hearing. Unless, Catherine, do you have anything to add? Okay, I'll now close the public hearing. We are now done with item 41. Item 42 is the vote on wastewater infrastructure investment increase. Will the city clerk please read the title?
Item 42, ordinance number G6105, an ordinance amending Chapter 28 of the Phoenix City Code by amending Section 28-39 pertaining to sewer service charges and Section 28-92 pertaining to sewer environmental rates within and without the city, and providing for an effective date of the first bill day of March 2016.
Thank you very much. We now need a motion on item number 42.
Mayor?
Councilwoman.
I think it's been pretty obvious. I've been heavily involved in water and wastewater for the since Claude left. Somehow it fell in my lap, but it has been a real learning experience. And we have been very careful with the public money. We asked them not to increase. We asked them to find efficiencies. And Catherine and her staff stepped up to the plate, and they have done a wonderful job of management on our system. And I recognize the fact that it is time to address the infrastructure problems we have. I'm a firm believer that government has the core responsibility for public safety and infrastructure. And wastewater and water fit both of those categories perfectly. And on Monday, I made the promise that I would be very careful with taxpayers' dollars. And to me, this is a perfect fit, and I want to move approval of staff's recommendation.
We have a motion.
Second.
We have a second on that motion. I'll turn it over to the council members. Anybody have any comment on Councilman Williams' motion? Okay. I had a couple cards on 42. Both of the speakers spoke on 41 as well. I assume either Ms. Rogers nor Mr. Ray has additional comments on 42. Okay. Now I'll turn over to members of the council. Would any council members like to provide testimony? Councilor DeCiccio, please.
I will, since I'm not going to be supporting this. This is the exact same thing that we heard back in 2010. Same business people, same individuals. It was all a scam. They scammed the taxpayers. They scammed the citizens of the city of Phoenix. Claude, you were there. We heard the same debate. It's critical. The world is going to collapse. The sky is falling. All these things were happening. And then what would happen? The public got involved. The public got motivated. The public literally took this issue on and said no more rate increases. And you know what the council did for 4 or 5 years? No more rate increases. These rate increases hurt the poorest of the poor the worst. Not only they hurt the middle class, but they hurt the poorest of the poor. I'm shocked that we're even looking at these rate increases again and using the same old arguments. The same individuals literally came to us, scammed the taxpayers, scammed the ratepayers back then. And like I said, Claude, you heard this whole thing. You were there in the middle of this debate. You saw what occurred. And it was a sham. And so how could you ask this council to support another rate increase after what occurred in 2010? Same argument, same debate, same discussion, same sky is falling, and I'm going to be voting no on this, Mayor.
All right, thank you very much, Councilman DeCiccio. Any other comments from members of this council? Vice Mayor?
I appreciate it. And thank you, Ms. Catherine Sorensen, for being such a solid subject matter expert. And I think we have several. We're really fortunate to have the staff that we have here at the City of Phoenix. A hike in rates is something that I don't take lightly. In fact, I've been on this council for the past 4 years, and we have not had a net increase in the past 4 years, and we've all felt very, very good about that. And that's due to responsible management and for several years leading up to that. So I do want to give my predecessor, who's been, and I joke with him and saying he's been the water wonk, but truly it's been part of his leadership in past councils, and of course Mayor Stanton, and before Mayor Stanton, Mayor Gordon. And I give a lot of credit to Thelda Williams, who is on this council. I don't think anyone on this council takes a hike lightly. We are talking about infrastructure. We're talking about investing in our infrastructure. Phoenix is a world-class city, and I believe to sustain that, we have to continue to invest in education and in infrastructure. This is the responsible thing to do in this case. I think it's unfair, and I'll even say irresponsible, to simply say, we don't have to do it. Close the book and walk out. Realistically, I mean, is that really a solution? Because we have an issue with our infrastructure. It is aging, and pipes are bursting, and we have to do something. It's one of those things, you know, I mean, Proposition 104 just passed, and we're talking new streets and sidewalks and things that we can actually see. We're talking about the type of infrastructure that is sort of out of sight, out of mind for many people. This is a public safety issue. This is about moving our city forward, and I am absolutely supportive of this.
All right, thank you very much. I had a quick question for City Manager. It's been your recommendation on today's item has been referred to as a sham and a scam. I think it's fair, in light of the very personal nature of that statement and accusation, that you have a chance to respond to whether or not the recommendation made by you and your professional team is a sham or a scam. I'm asking City Manager a question. Obviously, I have a chance to respond. Councilman, please.
Mayor, council members, this is a recommendation that comes from the city manager through our staff. So yes, we 100% recommend this as critical and important. I am very confident in the work that's been done over the past 4 years, as Councilwoman Williams mentioned, in the efficiency area in the water department. But it is clear to us as professional staff recommending to you that we are at a point now, after having used fund balances and used all the efficiencies that we've been able to find, that it is critical for us to recommend these rate increases now in the best interest of our water system and, frankly, in the best interest of the residents of Phoenix who depend on the water system.
All right, Councilwoman Gallego.
Thank you so much. Question for staff. Have any outside organizations or media outlets weighed in on whether this is a good rate increase?
Mayor, Councilwoman Gallego, so we went to a lot of neighborhood meetings, and it was presented as information only. We never asked any of those neighborhood committees to actually vote on the issue. We were just there to answer any questions and get any input that was provided. I will tell you that there was, frankly, just not a lot of interest. That people seemed very comfortable. The questions that were asked really had more to do with the state of our resources or other topics that weren't directly related to the rate increase itself. We did present to a subcommittee of the Chamber of Commerce. I believe it's called the Water and Agriculture Subcommittee, and they did unanimously recommend it.
And the Arizona Republic Editorial Board, I think, weighed in favor?
Yes, Councilwoman Gallego, yes, thank you, they did as well.
I think this is a time we are often told we should run the city like a business. If we look at businesses in the utilities, across the board, they are going for rate increases for the very same reasons that you gave us. The cost of raw materials are going up, the cost to run the system are going up, and some of those rate increases are more significant than this one. So I think this is a time when we can step up and make that investment. I hate the phone calls when people are saying 7th Avenue is shut down for a leak. What you idiot, what are you going to do about it? Well, I mean, this is what we're going to do, invest in the pipelines and try to make sure that where we can, we reduce those leaks. Those aren't fun phone calls. People tell us how much it impacts their business if the streets they are on are shut down and you can't get there. And there's nothing more painful, as Kathy Ferris sort of alluded to, than seeing water running that people are paying for and no one is benefiting from. So I am looking forward to supporting this motion.
Thank you very much. Councilman Tizio, did you have a follow-up?
Yeah, it was a sham. It was a scam 10 years ago on the taxpayer and the ratepayers. So we can whitewash it all we want, but the fact of the matter is the public was lied to, the council members were lied to. It was all a scheme in order to raise rates. You can't believe an entity, and Catherine, I love you, I think you're fantastic, but the bottom line is you cannot believe an organization that literally went out of their way to lie to the public and business, and then brought business people in to literally continue that sham. So you saw the same faces back then doing the same thing. The editorial board even wrote an editorial back then and said, hey, this is a good thing. Well, it turns out it was not true. None of it was true then. I don't believe it now.
I apologize, Council. I didn't mean to mischaracterize. You said that the present recommendation was a sham. That was,
no,
I don't know if
last time was a sham.
you do or don't feel this one, because I wanted this.
If the last one was a scam, I would believe that this one is, yes.
That's why I wanted to give the city manager, it's his recommendation. I wanted him to have the opportunity to respond to an allegation that this particular recommendation is a sham or a scam. Councilman Gates.
Thank you, Mayor. And I just wanted to say thank you to Catherine Sorensen and the entire team. You guys have done an incredible job over the past few years on a number of innovative projects for us, and we're very fortunate to have you running the water department. I remember that in 2010, and I'm not going to put names on what was going on here, but what I do know, what came out of that was that our community really got involved on this issue, and the water department did incredible things on efficiencies, and I'm very much appreciative for those efforts. There's been some suggestion up here that if people don't vote in favor of this particular increase, which, just to be clear what this is a 4% increase that we're being asked to vote on. 2% this year, 2% next year. And there have been some suggestions that people don't vote in favor of that they don't support clean water. I want to be very clear. I think everyone up here supports clean water. I think this is a discussion of whether we need to go forward with a 4% increase at this time, being phased in over the next 2 years. I don't support that. That's more than I would like to see at this point. But, I want to make sure that we don't get into the name calling and all that. I think everyone has the best intentions here. And again, I really do want to thank everyone in the water department, starting with Catherine Sorensen, going all the way down for all the great work that has been done. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councilman Gates. Councilman Pastor, do you have a comment?
Yes, I have several comments. I would like to know why 4%?
So, Mayor, Councilwoman, so what we look at is we look at a 5-year plan. And what we do is we lay out the infrastructure needs that we think are appropriate to continue those reliable water deliveries and to ensure the safe removal of wastewater. We then take that 5-year capital improvement plan and we give that over to the finance department. They work very closely with us. They then take our operations needs and expenses and put together projections then between the capital program and then our operations program about what level of revenues are necessary to maintain those programs. And so the numbers come out of those calculations. They also take care to try to smooth rate increases over that 5-year period so that we're not, delaying a rate increase and then asking for a much larger one or asking for a large one and then not having one the next year. We want to provide some semblance of certainty to our customers. So there's also a process of smoothing that takes place. I'll see if our Chief Financial Officer wants to add to that.
Yeah, so Mayor and Councilwoman Pastor, there's specific financial targets and there's specific fund balance requirements that we need to maintain to keep that AAA bond rating and to keep our borrowing costs low. We work with financial advisors to make sure that this financial plan has a combination of very low rates, but also has financial targets that allow us to keep our AAA bond rating. And taking all of those things into consideration, that's how we determine the rate increases every single year.
Okay, so it's triggering me with low rates. What are considered low rates? What's the range? And in order to keep a triple bond rating, what would be the rate that we would receive or get?
So, Mayor, Councilwoman Pastor, I'll answer the question about what constitutes low rates, and then I'll pass over to Denise to talk about fund balances. So there are a couple of different affordability indices that exist in the industry, and we do keep an eye on those. One is set by the United Nations, one is set by the EPA, and then California has a pretty strict affordability index as well. Basically what they do is they take a look at the annual cost of the water and sewer utilities to the average customer, and then they divide that by median household income for that community, and that gives you kind of a ratio. The UN sets a standard of 3% for water systems. The EPA sets a standard of between 1.5% and 2.5% for combined water and sewer rates, and California sets an index of, I believe it's 1.5% for water utilities. I will double check, but I believe I have our numbers here. We fall well below those indices.
Okay, so then if this does not pass, what would our rates be?
Mayor,
hearing
Councilmember,
is
if this doesn't pass, our rates will remain the same.
our bond rate.
Well, our bond ratings, oh, I'm sorry, I'll pass that.
Yeah, I would not want to speculate on that, but I will tell you that we will have to take drastic cuts in the capital improvement program to maintain our financial targets, and we had those numbers up earlier. If you remember, we have planned bond sales for the CIP program. To do a bond sale, I have to have a revenue source. Right now, the water system is operating at a loss. So there is no money here for a bond program, and there is no money for any additional capital improvements. And so I don't know how the rating agencies will react to this.
So what it does is it builds upon itself. If we don't invest in infrastructure, then the system decays, and the rating agencies look at, I think, a couple things from what I know from the Chief Financial Officer. One is, what's the state of our system? And two, what is the capacity of the city to take action? And if we don't raise the rates, then we have committed to less infrastructure, which is a negative, and we've demonstrated a lack of a willingness to take action, which is a negative. Both those negatives would factor into what Denise has to answer to the rating agencies, which would not be positive in their view.
Just a little bit more information here. We have had rating agency reports, and in those reports, they have cited the fact that we have good, strong fund balances and liquidity in these systems, and they like the fact that we had annual review of what our rate increases needed to be. So those are two positive things that they have attributed to the City of Phoenix in our AAA bond rating.
I'm going to keep on asking only because I know people want to know, but so we're triple rating. What would the rating be if this is not passed?
I think it's probably speculative. They don't know, but I think what they're trying to say is it certainly would be credit negative for the city.
It would definitely be credit negative, and what they do is the next one is AA plus and then AA, and that's how they go.
And the reason why I'm asking is due to the fact that I have heard from many people the doom and gloom, what's going to happen. I'm now up here hearing it's a sham and everything, and I really, at the end of the day, want to make a conscious vote as to what I want to do, what is best for the city in the future and the infrastructure. So I'm trying to get at here are the facts, and here's what will end up happening if it doesn't pass, and here's what reality is. So that's why I'm asking the questions that I'm asking, to get to that point as to these are the facts. Here's the bottom line. So we're in a negative, and that's what I heard. We do not have any funding moving forward for our capital improvements. We need this because of our bond rating, and also to hold be able to get low rates. And I'm just summarizing what I'm hearing.
That's correct. And Councilman, let me also assure you that the five of us sitting up here would not be here recommending something that is a sham or a scam. We absolutely stake our professional reputations on this.
Yeah.
Mr. Warren, did you have something to add? I apologize. No. You were okay. Councilman, you have other questions? Any other questions or comments? Councilman Nowakowski, please.
Mayor, I want to thank our staff for reaching out. I know that you went out to the villages and gave a report, but after those meetings, I started receiving some phone calls asking questions like, Michael, why is the city tearing up our streets 3 to 4 times? And they were using, for example, the Broadway Road. Prior to the Broadway Expressway that we're building, the Rio Salao, Avenida Rio Salao, We put in a water line, sewer line, and then we tore it up again for a storm drain. And now we're tearing it up again the fourth time. So they're saying, don't you guys talk to each other? Don't you work together in collaboration? So, and then they said, well, Michael, didn't you guys end up saving $100 million? Why can't you do something with coordinating, tearing up the streets? So, those are the questions that we're hearing out there when we're in the community. And I believe that the difference from 2010 and these community outreach is that this was more of a report to the villages, and I'm not sure which other groups you went to visit, but it wasn't really an outreach where there was dialogue. It was more, this is what's been told to me, I'm not sure if it's true or not, but it was more of a report and sort of like the status of our water department and our infrastructure, and they felt that there was no dialogue on that.
Mayor, council member, let me first address the issue about tearing up streets. So we do coordinate very closely with the streets department, and we try our best to make sure that if we're digging up a street, we're only doing it once, because we know that that annoys the public. Also, it's a cost savings for us. If we can all go in and do the work at the same time, that's an efficiency for us. So we do try very hard to coordinate those activities. Sometimes we are unable to for various reasons. One of the issues that comes up from time to time is that once you open up a street, you encounter unknowns, things that you just didn't expect to be there, and that can really delay or drag out a project much longer than we anticipate. The other thing that happens is that we prioritize our water line replacements based on the factors that we've discussed here with this council. And streets prioritizes their replacement based on the factors that are important to them. We look for those overlaps, but sometimes what is critical to us is just not that critical to streets, and vice versa. So we do make every effort to coordinate that. We understand how irritating that is, but unfortunately it's just not always possible to coordinate. Then regarding the dialogue at the village planning committees, actually, and I apologize if that was the impression that the village planning committee in Levine, if that's the feedback that they gave you. That was certainly not the intent. And what we did is we took a presentation very similar to the one that we presented to this council back in November and asked for input and asked for questions. But I will tell you, there weren't a lot of questions related directly to the rates themselves. There were some questions related to drought on or shortage on the Colorado River, what we're doing, for example, with methane recovery at the plants. There were questions, but they tended not to be about this particular issue. But certainly it was our intent to engage the public in dialogue, not just to present a report.
Well, my concern is that we knew 3 years prior that we were going to have a $50 million project going down Broadway, and we still tore it 3 times prior to that. So, I mean, we can sit here and talk about coordinating and talking to each other, but it's kind of hard to sell that when the reality, it's not happening. I mean, I see it on a daily basis when we're driving down the road and I'm trying to get to work and the street's torn up, and then you drive down another street and that street's torn up and then it's fixed, and then a couple months later, another department's out there tearing it up. So I'm not sure the situations might be different. If there's a main break, I mean, there's an emergency, yeah, you have to. But I don't see that much situations of emergency happening. And I think we're doing a great job. I think we're doing a better job than what we were doing back in 2010 and collaborating and working together with different departments. And I know that you all are starting to meet as department heads and all that. But I think we can do better. I think that there's still some savings out there. I think Bill Gates and that subcommittee has done a wonderful job to find those extra funding that are waste of money that was out there. And we have $100 million savings. I think that we need to look a little bit harder. And I'm just concerned that I'm hearing from residents right now, we're not good stewards with those tax dollars. And my concern is we're talking about a 2% this year, and we're talking about March. That's just a couple months away, and then we're talking about another 2% the following March. And it's just kind of hard to swallow. I know that one of the recommendations back in 2010 is that everybody used to call it the water bill, and everybody thought that all the expense was just water. Then we actually itemized it so individuals can actually see how much of that bill is actually for water and for services and for trash and all that. So, those were suggestions that came out of the community, and I wish we would have done some type of a process like that where we could actually listen more to the grassroots or the neighborhoods than just having a quick meeting.
Mayor, can I make a comment?
Were you done, Councilman? Councilman Williams?
I just want to kind of respond to a couple of Councilman Nowakowski's comments. One, this is an enterprise fund, and I know Councilman Gates has done a yeoman's job in finding savings throughout the city. But as the water department has to rely on itself to raise its own money, just as the airport is one of the 2 enterprise funds that we have. So a lot of the savings that you've accomplished simply do not apply in this area. I also want to thank Catherine and the crew, because I held public meetings and we had over 50 people there, I know, and the presentation was well received. In fact, I have a pretty crusty group sometimes, and she answered their questions very well, and I was surprised. I had people come up after and said, that's affordable. We need to make sure we not only have water, but it's there when we want it. And truthfully, we don't pay much for water in the city of Phoenix when you compare us to some of the other cities or some of the places we move from. And for the third point, we just passed the transportation tax, and we have a committee that's working right now to talk about going out and which streets we're going to totally redo into the new model that has been established. And exactly what you pointed out, Councilman, is one of my concerns, is the fact that I want to make doggone sure we don't do one and rip it up and do the other. But I think it increases the odds of that happening if we don't have this in place so that they can actually work out a coordinated plan, so that they know where the water needs to be done first, how that fits into the streets and transportation plan, and so that it is consolidated into one cost-saving plan that eliminates the problem of putting it in and tearing it up and redoing it again. And I think a lot of the times we've had in the last year so many breaks in so many places. I mean, we had a bus that fell in, for goodness sakes. That was pretty embarrassing, but I think we often see that, and we don't understand that not only have we ruined a street, we have to fix the pothole, the water main, the pipes, repair the street, but often it causes damages to so many buildings and even private residents. And as a council, we have paid a lot of dollars out going in and cleaning up after our water went in and destroyed a home or a yard or a business. And that gets very costly. And my fear is if we don't address this and go forward and recognize that we have an aging infrastructure. I mean, part of it's been in the ground 100 years. And although we put in that new recommended pipe in the 70s, the 100-year stuff has actually held up better than some of the stuff that was put in the 70s. But I think we have to address that and make sure that going forward, because we're going to continue to grow, we need to make sure that we have this plan, it's coordinated, and we systematically improve our system as we continue to grow. We have enough other water battles to look forward to. This should not be a battle. This is common sense, and I think it's something that's sorely needed, and it is better to do now and save money.
Thank you very much, Councilman Williams. Councilman Aziz, you had follow-up, please?
Yeah, just follow-up questions on that. The water and the wastewater increase are 2% per year, or what? Walk us through that and the total amount of monies it is.
Mayor, council members, DeCiccio. So the recommendation is for 3% for water for this year, beginning March 1st, 2016, and then 2% for water beginning March 1st, 2017. And for wastewater, it is 2% beginning March 1st, 2016, and then 2% beginning March 1st, 2017.
And the combined dollar extra amounts, how much is that?
So are you talking about the revenue coming in?
The extra additional, what does that represent?
So on the water side, we'll be getting about $11.6 million more with the rate increase and about the same for the next year. Well, a little bit less for the next year. And then on wastewater, we'll be looking at about $3.6 million annually.
Per year?
Yes.
So if you were to add all four of those together, the water for the first 2 years and the wastewater for the first 2 years, what's that total amount? I have approximately 27 million, but I want to make sure it's correct.
I'd say close to 29 million.
And then just to go back to what Councilman Gates had said, when we had, my feeling here today, and the reason you've got me getting all riled up, you had members of the business community basically making some members of the council who were opposed to this make us look like we were bad. We didn't support water. We didn't support good infrastructure. And that same thing happened today. These same individuals came down here and did the same thing, and they lied last time. They literally outright lied. Yes, Jim, you and others came in here to this council and lied to the public, and it turned out we didn't need to do that. It turned out it was all a scam, and it was a sham. So why would anybody else believe that today, when the same individuals are doing the same arguments over again, same thing, trying to make others look bad up here for voting against a rate increase? So that's what this is about right here, is because this wasn't going to even come up this way, but when you have people trying to make logical arguments up here, and you have other individuals telling you that something's going to be a detriment, critical, the sky's going to be falling down if we don't do these things, and it's just not true. It's just not true. It wasn't true then, and it's not true now.
All right, thank you very much. I know you may be talking about people outside the city, but the recommendation itself came from our city manager via Catherine Sorensen, and so I wanted him a chance to respond, because obviously when you suggest that a policy recommendation is a sham or a scam, that's a direct attack on someone's integrity, and I wanted the city manager an opportunity to respond to that. I actually believe there can be good faith disagreement about whether this is a good policy or not, but to suggest that the city manager would recommend to the city council something that is a sham or a scam, I think is unfair, and that's why I wanted, the city manager, if you want to say more, you feel like you've spoken your piece about the attack on the integrity of you by presenting this to the council.
Mayor, we stand by our recommendation that this is appropriate and reasonable, and it is in no way a scam or a sham.
Councilman Waring?
Yes, thank you. So I'll be voting against this, and there is may have policy disagreements and so forth, but I've had some issues with things that have gone on in the city in the last year. We found $70,000 in checks in a dumpster, didn't pay our firefighters appropriately, didn't handle either of those things well, and no real clear explanations were ever forthcoming. We had the FAA situation with our airport. Those were experts. Those were people who presumably knew their business. And the Matthew Whitaker situation with our police department. Again, we were told things at these council meetings that turned out in retrospect, I don't know. I think more information was available than not, and it was very frustrating. So this is not a reflection on the water department, any of the people sitting before us, and so forth. But my confidence in some of the things that we hear at these meetings has been shaken, to say the least. Councilman Valenzuela made the point that this is stuff that we can't see. That is true. And that makes this all the more worrisome for me, because we're talking, as you guys just said, tens of millions of dollars. And basically voting for this would be blind faith, that it's going to get set appropriately, it's not going to wind up in a dumpster, you're going to talk to the appropriate federal authorities and so forth, none of which happened, it turns out, sounds like anyway, with the FAA. It's very frustrating. So for me to turn around and here in the name of progress, because somehow progress, which is brought up a couple times and was brought up in the Prop 104 debate, is equated to tax increases. I'm not sure when progress equal tax increases, but in any case, that seems to be what's being presented. I guess I don't know that this is necessarily advancing the cause. It might be the right thing to do, But given the way the last year has gone, I'm not the most trusting individual anyway. I'm not in the mood to take a lot of things on faith. And I don't think, for those who might criticize me for this stance, if you were in my position, would you feel differently? I wonder. Because I feel like I got burned a few times on some of this stuff. Fortunately, I vote no a lot, so maybe I didn't actually get burned. But I do feel like I was in at least a position to say, I told you so. And this is one of those situations. I find it incredibly frustrating. As you can probably tell, I'm still frustrated. This is nothing new. Had these discussions with some of my colleagues, certainly with the city manager and so forth. So this isn't anything new, maybe to you specific guys sitting up in front, but certainly not to the city leadership. So again, I don't find my stance unreasonable. People want to criticize me for this. I take no umbrage. It's politics, whatever. You may even be right. But I just wonder, if you were in my situation, what would you do? Would you give an organization that I just described that's making the kind of mistakes we've been making, would you give that organization tens of millions of dollars to do stuff that you're never actually going to see? I wonder. Maybe it would. Business was cited, right? Would you invest in that business? Would you go buy stock in a business that was performing at that level? Maybe you would. I wouldn't. So that's all I have to say about that, but I won't be voting for this today. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Councilman Waring. Any additional comments, Vice Mayor?
Thanks, Mayor. What do I say to that? I will say it doesn't make the problem go away. We still have needs for our infrastructure. We have infrastructure needs. We can't just say, okay, well, you know what, we're going to tell our city staff no, and figure it out, and we'll let the taxpayers know that, as we know and as we are aware, there are probably water leaks happening now. I mean, that's what happens in a city our size. City of 1.6 million, that's happening all the time. We are losing money every day. The taxpayer is losing money every day. And we're going to go and tell a taxpayer, we don't know if the right thing will be done. We want to, there's a conspiracy, or use whatever word you want to use. We don't have faith in the system, so we're going to go ahead and just take our ball and go home with it. We elect to do nothing. I don't know if that's the right message to send to the public either. I'm hoping that I'm hoping that responsibility rules the day here. Again, water rate increases are something that I don't take lightly. I don't think anyone does. But this is called responsible governing. And if there was a water leak in any one of our homes, I'm pretty sure we wouldn't let it go and just say, I don't feel like dealing with it right now. We probably would get right on it. That's happening in the city that we are governing in, and I suggest that we get on it. I'm supportive of it, and I'm really hoping that this passes.
Thank you very much, Vice Mayor. Councilman Waring.
Thank you. So there is something on your water bill, I don't know if we're still calling it that, the jail tax. So theoretically, it's used to pay our jail costs. We write a check to the county to house our prisoners. Jail tax was $1 somewhere about 2005. City claimed that it needed to double that tax, take it up to $2. You're doubling a tax. I mean, whether it's $1 or $2, I think it was $1 a month, went up to $2 a month for most people. And they needed to do that to pay exorbitant jail bills. When I got to the council, because that was all before I was on the council, when I got to the council in 2011, it turned out the jail tax was actually not going to any pot of money set aside simply for paying for prisoners. It just went to the general fund. And it was collecting quite a bit more than it needed to collect to pay our costs for prisoners. I don't know. Sometimes that's what expert opinion gets you. So, no, I'm not the most trusting person, and no, I don't think this is a time to just be willy-nilly throwing money at problems either, given the performance I've seen in a host of other areas. I mean, I gave 4 or 5 examples, but there could have been a lot more. So we need to do better. I think that's the answer to a lot of our problems. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Any additional comments? Roll call.
DeCiccio. No. Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
No.
Nowakowski. Pastor.
Yes.
Waring. No. Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, the item passes on a 5-4 vote. Next item on the agenda is item 3. We already had a staff report, I believe, that covered both water, wastewater. So I'll now open up a public hearing on item number 43. The public hearing is now open. Let's see, it appears that the speakers may have been, they are all saying you are not required, unless you have a unique argument that relates to water as opposed to wastewater. Ditto for all of the previous comments. Is anyone else, or anyone who didn't fill in a card wish to speak on item 43? Going once, going twice, public hearing is now closed. On item number 44.
I have to read the title.
I'm sorry. City Clerk reads the title, then a motion.
Item 44, ordinance number G6106, an ordinance amending Chapter 37 of the Phoenix City Code by amending Section 37-63 pertaining to water rates and Section 37-133 pertaining to environmental rates within the City of Phoenix and Town of Paradise Valley, and providing for an effective date of the first bill date of March 2016.
Councilman Williams, do you have a motion on item 44?
For all the reasons previously stated, I move approval of staff recommendation.
A second.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments on item 4? Roll call.
DeCiccio.
Yes.
I apologize. Before we vote, did you wish to speak on 40? You did not speak on 43. Okay. Leonard Clark, the public hearing was on item 43. I did call it out, but out of abundance of caution, you may provide testimony, and then we'll do our vote, please.
Right, because I did put down on item 44, and it says 44. I know it's just a coincidence, but, well, my name is Leonard Clark, and, you know, I'm the tree-hugging liberal from the left, and unfortunately, I find myself agreeing with the skepticism of my friends on the right, because all we want to do in Phoenix is build and build and build and build more houses until someday we're not going to have enough water. You know, I know we don't believe in global warming and all of these other things, but it is germane to the argument that you're asking the citizens here. I don't see anything clear. I'm confused. I see 2% here, too. What does this all add up to? Because your writing in your handout is confusing not just me, but a lot of citizens for how much money it's going to be. And no offense to the city manager, but now he's the high priest of Phoenix because you had him do the city prayer. I'm sorry, I've always been a skeptic, and I will not believe what you say just because you say it. I think that, you know, we cannot continue to build and build and build and build more pipes and all this stuff. The city's getting too big, and you guys got to realize we still live in a desert. But on top of that, I don't see a clear indication of how much actually we're going to pay total. And I'm a tree-hugging left-wing liberal. So sorry, you know, I've been nice to you guys for a long time, and I'll smile and patronize. The citizens need to have more evidence specifically on how much we're going to pay on our water bill. I'm against it. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Clark. Now we'll turn to item 44. There was a motion and a second on 44. If we could begin the roll call from the beginning again, Mr. City Clerk.
DeCiccio. Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
No.
Nowakowski. Pastor.
Yes.
Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, I believe that one also passes on a 5-4 vote. Next item on the agenda is item number 45, amendment contract with Valley Metro Rail for operating costs of light rail northwest extension. Vice Mayor.
Motion to approve item 45.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments on the item? Any cards? Roll call.
DeCiccio. Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Nowakowski. Pastor.
Yes.
Waring. Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes. 6-3, 7-2, the item passes. Item 46, Vice Mayor.
Motion to approve item 46.
Second.
We have a motion and a second on 46. James Deibler, do you provide testimony on 46? This is April 2016 bus service changes, followed by Leonard Clark.
Hello, Hello, I am James Deibler, I live in District 5. I am going to school at Arizona State University. I am a huge supporter of Phoenix public transit tax. The new 32nd Street bus route will help the bus riders and persons with autism for getting to school and work every day. Finally, Phoenix Public Transit Department is doing a good job on informing the residents about the bus route changes in their community. I hope ATU Local 1433 Transit Union and Transdev will reach an agreement to avoid a bus strike since 2012. I am sick about the transit union is fighting with a transit company. Thanks for no time.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Dibler. Mr. Leonard Clark, up to 2 minutes of testimony on this item.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. My name is Leonard Clark, and all my fellow citizens out there living in Phoenix. I know a lot of friends who ride the bus, and especially on 19th Avenue. Whenever you get on the 19th Avenue bus, because of the high-speed rail, it takes forever. You have to go around because of the construction and the boondoggle that's going on. So I'm wondering, you're saying in the writing, it's ambiguous to me. I don't know if it means 19th Avenue, a specific sub-portion in there, means that 19th Avenue is going to be detoured even more, or it says less time, but I'm sorry, I don't trust you guys anymore, okay? I don't trust you, and I don't see in there where it says that 19th Avenue, where a lot of my friends have to ride, and we have to go all the way around Christown, stay on the bus forever, where it says we're actually shortening the route, but it says it. So I don't just take you at face value. In the Army, United States Army, they have a saying, "In God we trust, all others sign here." So, sorry. The public is feeling, because you guys are all one group. There's no left wing or right wing with you. You guys all know each other in your small little circles. I want to know what's happening on 19th Avenue. And of course, the public will know I will not get an answer, because I have to pay to park here, pay to come speak to my representatives. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Clark. Do we have an answer to what's happening on 19th Avenue?
Mayor, the 19th Avenue bus has been detoured because of the construction. It returns to its direct line on 19th Avenue. In fact, look at Ms. Hyatt, it increases frequency, so there will be more service on 19th Avenue. I'm a savant.
Ms. Hyatt, did the city manager get it correct? What's going to happen on 19th Avenue?
Ed got it absolutely correct.
Is there any additions or refinements you'd like to make to his answer?
Mayor Stanton, members of the council, Ed is absolutely right. We are actually increasing service in order to better align with the new light rail service, which will be opening in March of this year.
Thank you very much. Councilwoman, please.
So will it be all of 19th Avenue, or what segment of 19th Avenue will be increasing?
Mayor Stanton, Councilwoman Pastor, I would just want to make sure that I have it absolutely correct. We'll be increasing our frequency between Jefferson and Union Hills.
Okay, any other questions? Councilwoman Gallego?
I just wanted to express thanks from District 8 residents about the new 32nd Street route, which is going to connect a lot of students to many schools, including Camelback High School. Was a route that we heard a lot about in the Reinvent Phoenix process, and it's wonderful when we can take from one city process and bring information to another and just really show that we are one city working together. And I think it was also one of the first routes where we got comments in languages beyond English and Spanish that we needed to address that. So I'm glad that we are going to be serving a very diverse community, including many of the refugees who call Phoenix home. We are a welcoming city, and this is further evidence of that.
Thank you very much. Any other comments? All right, we have a motion. We have a second. Is that correct? Roll call.
DeCiccio.
I'm voting no because of Mr. Clark.
Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Noakowski.
Yes.
Pastor.
Yes.
Waring. Williams. Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, the item passes 8-1. Next is item 48, proposed changes in Phoenix speed limits. Mr. Clark, did you have comments? Well, let's get a motion on 48 first, I'm sorry. Oh, city clerk needs to read the title on this one first, I'm sorry. This is item 48.
Ordinance G6107, an ordinance vehicles and traffic, Article 12, Section 36-158, Schedule 1 of the Phoenix City Code relating to local speed limits.
All right, do we have a motion on item 48?
Motion to approve item 48.
Second.
Is that noted, is that meant to be as corrected?
Item 48 as corrected.
Mr. Clark, do you have testimony on item 48? Changes, proposed changes to Phoenix speed limits.
Hello, Mayor and City Council. Now, I realize, my name is Leonard Clark, by the way, and I live in the city of Phoenix. I realize it was a bit rough on you. Now, I want our public citizens to know that sometimes I get frustrated, as they do. They see me up here, and they see sometimes we citizens not getting specific answers. So I do appreciate the last one. So if I was a little rough on you, I do apologize. I've seen you working day in and day out, and you guys do conscientiously work very hard. So you saw a little frustration on my part. And I'm sorry if that's viewed in some of the macho people, saying, hey, trying to be nice, but you're a human being, so I just want to let you know, a little rough on you. But as far as amending the speed limits, I and others have been stopped, and I'm not saying it's wrong. A lot of us are driving on the freeway over here, I-17, I-10. We are going like 15 miles, that's felony, of course, above the speed limit. I don't go that fast, just saying it, but a lot of us are getting off that freeway. Law enforcement is waiting right here, and I'm not saying they shouldn't. People are going in the 35-mile-per-hour zone. They're going 50 or 55. I think that's good. I think that you are looking at that. Law enforcement is stopping people that are going fast and saying, hey, this is a felony. Take your traffic court, okay? But I'm just concerned because the traffic schools, I've tried to look up and see who owns the traffic schools, what financial connections, if there are any. Is there somebody that might, against you or the other politicians, because I'm just a citizen, do they contribute any type of funding? Because with Citizens United, we don't know. These traffic schools, I looked them up and I don't know who the owners are. I had to go to one. And I'm glad that I had the opportunity to, but I'm just worried that when we're stopped and for going fast, I don't want it to turn into a shakedown. And I'm not saying that about our law enforcement. I'm not saying that about the good city workers. I don't blame the sailors. I look at the captain on the ship. And so I just want to know about that, and thank you so much.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Clark. We have a motion on 48. We have a second.
DeCiccio. Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Noakowski. Pastor.
Yes.
Waring. Williams. Valenzuela. Yes. Mayor Stanton.
Yes. Next item is item 49. We have a motion on 49. Vice Mayor.
Motion to approve item 49.
Mayor?
Yes.
I'd like to ask if this could be continued to our next meeting, because no one come in and explained this to me.
Okay, so we have now a request for continuance. What's the next date?
January 20th.
Okay, so is that okay as a 20th?
January 20th or further?
January 20th.
That's the next meeting?
That'll work.
That will work? Okay. So Councilman Williams has asked for a continuance on this item, so she has the opportunity to be briefed. Do we have a second on that?
Second.
All right, and maybe staff can check to see if there's other council members who want to be briefed in the meantime as well. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? That item passed unanimously. Do you have a motion on, now we're on planning and zoning matters. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. I think Councilman Noakowski may have a request to reconsider an item. Councilman Noakowski.
Mayor, I'd like to reconsider item number 19. There's a time restriction on there. I'd like to a motion to extend the term of this current license for 30 days.
You can say it first, and then you can make
First, just do motion reconsideration.
Okay, I'd like to make a motion to reconsider item number 19.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. My understanding is that he originally, Councilman Calhoun, but we've subsequently discovered that, unfortunately, we don't have more time, so we do have to act on this item today. Councilman Nowakowski.
Mayor, I'd like to extend the term of the current license for 30 days, so it gives us enough time to sit down and talk to the Parks Department about the future plans for this after CEMEX using the property, what's going to happen with the property and how we're going to fill the gravel pit at the end of the day.
All right, so the motion is for a 30-day extension of the agreement.
Second.
There's a second. Any comments or questions? Roll call.
DeCiccio.
Yes.
Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Noakowski.
Yes.
Pastor. Waring.
Yes.
Williams.
Yes.
Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes, now we're on planning and zoning matters, items 50 through 57. Are there any cards in these items? Can we do an omnibus motion? Vice Mayor, can we do an omnibus motion on 50 through 57?
Motion to approve items 50 through 57.
We have a motion, we have a second. Any comments by this council? Roll call.
DeCiccio. Gallego.
Yes.
Gates.
Yes.
Noakowski. Pastor. Waring.
Yes.
Williams. Valenzuela.
Yes.
Mayor Stanton.
Yes. I believe there are no other cards for citizen request. There be no, oh, there are two, I'm sorry. So we have a couple more. Is Joanne Scott Wood, you're still here? Good to see you. And then Miss Daw.
She left.
She had to leave, okay. Miss Woods, the floor is yours.
Okay. I want to speak about what happens in the aftermath and solutions for the intimate challenge that civilian families face following an officer-involved shooting. From my unique perspective as a family representative of Remain Brisbane, in particular for Michael Chambers and her daughter Ayanna Rains, one of Remain's 3 daughters, I became an activist friend following his shooting. I have done what I can. I've organized candlelight vigils with Michael following the 6 vandalizations of his memorial site and maintained in between. I've had continuing conversations with Michael in sympathy for the nightmares and the daytime terror of the police that Ayanna was experiencing. I've additional counseling without charge through a fellow activist. I've seen the lack of response of a GoFundMe site for a gravestone, and the final crushing blow discovering the total destruction of his memorial on the 1st-year anniversary of his death on December 2nd. The involved shooting of Lonnie Leeson after throwing rocks at the property and damaging it 3 weeks later on December 22nd at Cactus Precinct has brought up all the emotions of fear, disbelief, sadness, and anger that has cycled through this past year in that family and in the community. In the immediate aftermath of a shooting, when officers are killed in an encounter, families receive financial support, health services, a memorial, and a justice banner. When families lose a loved one, there is no immediate response of supportive, restorative justice. Please consider developing a policy that provides counseling, securing food and shelter if needed, a grave marker, and a justice banner for fallen citizens whose families successfully file a lawsuit or when the police department establishes excessive use of force. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. There be no other citizen comments, no other business before the City Council. This meeting is now adjourned.